In some of the most remote parts of this country, constant endemic hunger is still a fact of life for children. NDTV traveled to the Rajgarh Hills of Jharkhand Sahibganj district, where primary school children hunt wild rodents in desperate hunger. Rodents that are carriers of severe infections. Hundreds of children go down with diarrhea and end up in hospital. Some of them lose their lives after eating squirrels and rats. There is supposed to be a midday meal scheme here, but it's not clear where the money is going. This is a special report from my colleague Amba Batra Bakshi.
Trying to find Chuha Pahad in satellite, unmapped crannies of the Rajgarh Hills in Jharkhand. We've come here because we have learnt that schools in Pahadiya villages are operational only on paper. In reality, they're empty buildings, run down, unused for years.
मास्टर स्कूल आता है?
नहीं आता है।
पहले तो 50-60 तो करीब आया है बच्चा लोग।
अच्छा।
आया है, उसका बाद पढ़ाने नहीं आया, डील कर दिया तो बच्चा लोग सब अपना अपनी।
स्कूल से खाना मिलता है आपको?
नहीं मिलता है।
आप कभी शिकार करते हो? थोड़ा थोड़ा भाई बहन शिकार करते हैं?
हाँ।
शिकार से क्या क्या मार के खाते हैं?
खरगोश।
खरगोश और
चिड़िया।
चिड़िया और
सुअर।
हाँ? सुअर।
Why does Pinky hunt for meals? Where are the teachers in her school? What about classes? Where is her school midday meal?
पहाड़ में सिर्फ अगर मतलब ऊंचे स्तर के अधिकारी भी जांच में अगर जाते हैं तो जो पहाड़ से एकदम नज़दीक जो स्कूल है शहर से जो पहला स्कूल है तो बस उसी पे चेकिंग के लिए जाएंगे। अंदर जो है जहां आज हम गए वहां कोई नहीं जाता।
Evening has fallen. As we get ready to leave, Pinky comes to us for a picture. So she poses for us with the tail of the squirrel that she had for lunch.
Here in Sahibganj district, we found that school records show inflated enrollment figures and that both the state and the central government are giving money for midday meals for children that only exist on paper.
All right, well, how shocking is that report? And you can see this entire report, in fact, at 10:30 this evening. But we're going to be asking some tough questions to the Jharkhand government to try and find out what exactly is happening. Joining us, the senior Jharkhand Minister, Saryu Roy. Thank you, Mr. Roy, very much for being with us. Mohammad Khan of the Congress with us in the studio. Devinder Sharma, the food policy analyst, joins us from Chandigarh. Harsh Mandar, writer and activist, here with us as well. And also my colleague Amba Batra Bakshi, whose story you just saw. Let me come to you first, Mr. Saryu Roy. Sir, झारखंड के साहिबगंज डिस्ट्रिक्ट में राजमहल हिल्स इलाके में कम से कम 2 स्कूल है जहां इन बच्चों को कोई मिड डे मील नहीं मिल रहा है, जिसके कारण उनको चूहे, खरगोश, पक्षी ये सब खाना पड़ रहा है। हमारे रिपोर्टर्स वहां जा चुके हैं, काफी वहां लोकल वॉलंटियर्स के साथ ये स्थिति को हम देख चुके हैं और ये रिपोर्ट हमने अभी चलाए हैं एनडीटीवी पे। तो इसमें आपका क्या रिएक्शन है?
नहीं, आपने रिपोर्ट चलाया है, आपने वहाँ फोटोग्राफ किया है, विजुअल लिया है, तो उससे कोई इनकार तो नहीं कर सकता है क्योंकि स्टेटमेंट्स भी लोगों के आ रहे थे जी। मगर मैं यही बताना चाहूँगा कि वहाँ के जिन 2 स्कूलों के बारे में आप बता रहे हैं तो वो दोनों ही स्कूलों में स्कूल मैनेजमेंट कमेटी लोकल लोगों की है और उसके अंदर एक मातृ समिति है जो वहाँ मिड डे मील चलाती है और सरकार की तरफ से उनके अकाउंट में पैसा भेज दिया जाता है और पैसा भेजा जाता है। मैंने वहाँ के डीसी से भी बात किया
जी,
तो उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, हम लोग पैसा भेजते हैं और मिड डे मील चलाना उनका काम है। इसके अलावे भी सोशल वेलफेयर डिपार्टमेंट से आंगनवाड़ियाँ हैं, वहाँ से पीडीएस की स्कीम में 100% अंत्योदय में कवरेज है वहाँ के पहाड़िया फैमिलीज़ का। और जहाँ की आप बात कर रहे हैं वहाँ के लोग पॉस मशीन से राशन लेते हैं।
सरयू जी,
तो
आप जो कह रहे हैं ये सब सही है, आप जो कह रहे हैं ये सब सही है, पर ये सब पेपर में लिखा हुआ है, सच में ये नहीं हो रहा है। In fact, Saryuji, let me go across to my colleague.
नहीं सॉरी पेपर की ऐसा मत करिए, एग्जैगरेट मत करिए इसको.
नहीं
मैं बता रहा हूँ ना, मैं पीडीएस की बात कर रहा हूँ, that is recorded.
नहीं sir, what you are saying might be recorded, but that is the scam.
reality है,
the scam sir is that it is recorded.
मैंने deny नहीं किया.
नहीं sir.
Whatever you are saying and whatever you have covered there, I am not denying that.
No sir, that is just the point I am trying to make.
Fact from your point of view.
No, I understand what you are trying to say.
There are other aspects also.
The midday meal scheme, sir, is one of the most welcome projects in the history of independent India. Nobody is questioning that. All we are trying to do is to ensure that this works.
Midday meal there is run by the villagers themselves.
But that is where the problem is, and you are the state government,
villagers
sir.
themselves.
These schools don't have teachers. If there is no teacher in the school, there is no one to cook a midday meal scheme.
I don't want to engage myself in argument with you. Whatever you are showing, that is a one-day event, and what I am saying, just you should appreciate that also. It is not that whatever I am saying, I am putting exaggerated view from the point of government. Just I want to say that in both these schools there, midday meal is run by the villagers committee, and there is also one subcommittee, Matri Sanstha, that prepares the meals and give, and government gives the money to their account.
No, but it doesn't work, and this is exactly where I want to bring in my colleague Amba Batra Bakshi, who was over there.
So
what the minister is saying is that money is sent, but the point that the minister is making, and which your story seems to indicate, is that despite the money being sent, one moment sir, I've got your point, I'll come back to you. I want to just go across to our correspondent who's seen it, because what you're saying is correct, sir. However, the money is not reaching these children. I want to ask her why, despite what you're saying, it's still not reaching the kids.
Yes, what the minister is saying is correct, that the state money and the centre money for the midday meal scheme is definitely going into these bank accounts. But the problem we found is that the dry rations are reaching these schools which are in very isolated areas. But the money which is required for the fruits, the vegetables, the cooking supplies, all of this never reaches these schools. So yes, there is somebody from the village committee who is also a part of the midday meal scheme. But till there is no teacher coming to school, there is no midday meal that's being cooked. And these teachers are coming to school maybe once or twice a year, according to what we found. So these midday meals, these children are going hungry. There are no midday meals.
Harsh Mandar, you know, it's a question of implementation. Now, on paper, the midday meal scheme has a very sound basis on how schools are going to be checked. But in this particular instance, we found that the inspectors never went to these remote areas, because the inspectors never went, and because teachers got into a scam with some villagers who were completely illiterate. The end result was that there was no midday meal scheme. Is this a larger problem? In remote areas, actually implementing the scheme is very difficult?
No, it is obviously in tribal areas, implementing any development program is a challenge, but that is why we have governments, and we have governments which have to take responsibility. It isn't fair for a minister to, in the end, wash off his hands and say that it is ultimately the village community which is responsible. You have a completely, impoverished, disempowered village community that you're looking at here. And there are 2-3 things that I think one needs to bring into focus. Firstly, tribal people are the one community in the country which are actually showing, declining, even worse and worse nutrition status as we develop further, in inverted commas. So development has really meant for them, at least in the past, when there were forests and they had access, they would have some kind of nutrition security from the surrounding forests. Now that has declined. So you have a situation of an extremely vulnerable community, hedged in by development. Okay. Then you have oppression of various kinds, and also that you have there's the Right to Education Act, which guarantees schools and teachers. You have a National Food Security Act which guarantees school meals and the public distribution system. All of that has collapsed, and in the end this is what is happening to our children, and this completely heartbreaking, shameful story that we are seeing.
Okay.
I think that the government has to take responsibility.
So
and
let's put that across to Mr. Roy. Mr. Roy, you aren't denying that there may be problems, and there are very clear problems over here. Does the Jharkhand government, sir, do you as a senior minister take the onus of ensuring that these schools, we can only do so much reporting, that these schools, these 2 schools in this particular area, A, will have teachers who go there, B, there will be proper attendance, and C, that there will obviously be a midday meal scheme. There is a problem, sir. Will the Jharkhand government fix it?
Yeah, you are right. Problem is there. The number of teachers which ought to be in these schools are also not adequate. So there are constraints. So I can't say that everything is running very smoothly and as per standard in those schools. But I may say that the issues which we are raising about midday meal or food nutrition, for that we have just started in Pahadia areas, the food post schemes. They won't come to take ration, but the ration itself will go there in gunny bags of 35 kg per family. So government is trying its best to ensure all these things. Despite that, there is a lack of facilities, amenities there. Pahadia, in the places, remote places where they live, is on the top of the mountain, of the hillocks. So for them also and for the government also, there are some constants.
So
I can't say that everything is perfect and 100%.
And people who live at altitudes in excess of 14,000
I have
feet,
myself decided
the midday meal scheme works there as well. So the forests of Jharkhand, as difficult as they may be, surely government can reach there, sir.
No, particularly that area, the Pahadia areas, is very difficult to go there. But I myself have gone on these places along with the advisor of the commissioners of the Supreme Court, Mr. Balram, who takes care of all these things, nutrients things and other things. So we have visited there. Again, I am going to those places on 25th and 26th.
So, sir, hopefully you will be able to fix the problem in these 2 schools.
I am not denying whatever you are saying.
Yes.
I will try my best. Since it's not connected to my department, I will ask the Chief Minister.
You will try your best. I appreciate that. Devendra Sharma,
also.
I want to just go across to Devendra Sharma.
That should be fulfilled.
Okay, I want to go across. I want to go across to Devendra Sharma before I come back to Mr. Roy in just a moment from now. Mr. Sharma, the problem is often in this particular case of illiterate villagers, because the rule is very good that villagers must be entrusted with taking out money meant for the midday meal scheme along with the teachers. But in effect, there are cases where illiterate villagers are just putting their stamp onto a particular document in collusion with teachers who are part of the scam. A little bit of the money actually is spent towards food. No one knows where the food goes, while the rest of the money may be pocketed by somebody. So despite the best measures which exist on paper, is it a larger concern that it's not strong enough, particularly in some of the most vulnerable parts of India?
Well, I think everything that you mentioned has links to the extreme poverty that exists in that part of the country. You know, the more the poor, the lesser you can expect him to be that agile and alert to all those rights that they have been enshrined, or the kind of things that they should be ensuring themselves as a community. So I think poverty is a very important factor, and we need to understand that. And in these areas, especially, I was reading Panchayat Nama, one of the weekly magazines coming out from Jharkhand, and it tells us very clearly that in Jharkhand there is a huge problem of malnutrition among children, and at least 5 lakh children are suffering from malnutrition. 15% of them are in acute condition. And people are not getting the PDS ration. If you look at the household things, against 65 grams of pulses, they're getting only 7 grams. This is what the cover story of this weekly magazine says. So I think it should be very clear that one, the problem is of poverty and education, as you mentioned. The other one also is of implementation. The state is not able to reach out or ensure that the food security is ensured. And I agree with Harsh Mandar that actually food security program all across the country should shows a marked decline for the last few years, and I don't understand why the government is not focusing on ensuring a food security, especially in a country which ranks 97 among the 118 countries in the Global Hunger Index. I think the government must wake up. At least the central government must start cracking on this.
Mohammed Khan, you have dealt a great deal with food security. Is this a particular problem that we are seeing of some of the most remote parts of Jharkhand, or are there broader concerns that story raises?
Vishnu, this is undoubtedly an extremely tragic story, made more so by the fact that this is not the first time that this is happening in Jharkhand. December 2011, Harsh sir will remember, Lohar Daga. This is an endemic problem. People were reduced to eating grass, boiled grass, and this was brought to the attention of the nation by channels such as yours. They denied it in a similar fashion then as well. They held press conferences abdicating responsibility. The problem is, and my role with the NFSA was involved as being a member of the drafting committee along with Harsh sir. We installed guarantees to prevent exactly this sort of abdication of responsibility. There are checks and balances, there are audit committees. You cannot turn around and say that this is not my department and I cannot look into it. Sir, this is a problem across Jharkhand. You have a problem with your PDS system, you have a problem with the way you implement midday meal scheme. I want to say something here, Vishnu. The midday meal scheme is actually a very good scheme. It's one of the few good schemes that actually works. And it's very dangerous to extrapolate, to say that this one example is sort
an
of
indicator of a larger
exactly.
problem. No one is saying that. We aren't suggesting that at all.
Exactly. So
we just want good implementation.
You're right. So the problem is, it is important to point out areas where the scheme fails, like right now. But the truth is, this is a good scheme. And the central government must give it the priority it deserves. They must strengthen the Food Security Act. They must strengthen the implementation of the Food Security Act. I was surprised, Vishnu, when in November the Prime Minister came forward, December actually, he came forward, gave a speech saying he will give 6,000 rupees as maternity entitlements, and he made it seem like it was a new announcement. It's a guarantee under the Food Security Act, and one that has not been implemented for the last 3 years since this law has been on the books. I think the whole attitude towards the NFSA needs to change. It needs to be given greater priority. And you know why? Because there is plenty of food. The problem lies in distribution. That is the tragedy. And frankly, administrators like sir, the gentleman from Jharkhand who was speaking before, sir, the onus lies on you. You cannot say that NGOs or local bodies have the sole responsibility. No, sir, it begins and ends with you. That's how the law is designed.
Mr. Roy, last word. Would you like to say something, because the point being made is this has happened in 2011 as well. It wasn't a midday meal scheme. We've seen some of our most vulnerable communities over there starving, eating grass. We reported that story. It's happening now with these children who are eating rats. So how can you defend? Yes, go ahead, sir.
So eating rat is a different thing. I heard whatever is being said about it by the learned persons on your panel, and I can say that food security guarantee has improved much more in the state, and there is 97% coverage. The only lacuna is that the entire statistics, our scheme is based on a socio-economic caste census, and that has so many fallacies. So that is pinching us. So I can challenge anybody come here and see in what way the food security scheme has been improved in last 1.5 years.
Well, sir,
and where the machines gives the ration and people take it by putting their thumb impression, nobody can deny that that person has not taken.
But
so
that's just the point, sir. They may have taken, but they may not know what they are signing on about.
More than 97% of those who are deserving it.
I want to just go, I take your point, I'm out of time, but Amba, one last word to you. The minister there talking about thumbprints. You actually did a lot of research, because what he's saying is also correct, that there were thumbprints which were used and money was withdrawn correctly, but it never reached the right person. So how was the thumbprint system not working?
Vishnu, what the villagers told us is that firstly they live in abject poverty. Approximately their household income is approximately 800 rupees a month, and they have big families, 5 or 6 children. Now the village pradhan does go down to the city with the member of the education department, and the money is withdrawn. Social worker says he's paid a bribe of even 500 rupees, and that's practically his half month's income.
Yes.
So he takes it, and they're afraid of authority and they're afraid to speak up. But when you ask them, do you want the teacher to come to your village school? They say, yes, we want our children educated. We want to progress. So, I mean, this is the state there right now.
All right. Well, that is a pretty desperate state of play. But Mr. Roy, thank you so much for offering to actually come and say on record that you will look into this problem, sir. And we sincerely hope you do. It's 2 schools, which might sound very small in the context of the overall number of schools in a state, but 2 schools involving the lives of so many young children. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. I'd like to thank all our panelists as well.